Now, we've all heard of co-working spaces, but Common is a co-living space company. Now, what is that, Brad? Tell us.
First, Joe, thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah.
So co-living, it's a new word, but it's in some ways a new word and an improvement on a concept that people have been doing for a very long time, which is living in shared apartments. So Common is the largest designer and operator of co-living spaces in the United States. And to understand this, you really have to start by looking at the 25 million Americans live with roommates. So a lot of people, when they move to a place like New York for the first time, they're living with roommates, often people they don't know. You move into New York, you're making $50,000 a year, you have to find a place to live. Many times that means that someone is moving into a room that they find on Craigslist or find on the internet.
So you're obviously better than that.
So what we're doing is keeping the good parts of living with roommates. It's more affordable to do that. Right. And there's a social environment. But by operating and designing spaces with roommates in mind, we can remove a lot of the pain points that come with that. Things like, why do roommates fight? They fight about cleanliness, having a dirty roommate. So we, for instance, clean all the common areas every week, and that eliminates one of the main things that causes roommates to fight. We also provide shared kitchen and bathroom supplies. We design apartments with more bedrooms that open up into big shared kitchens and shared spaces that really are meant for sharing.
How many people usually share one of Common's apartments?
So on average, about 4 people will be in a unit, each with their own private bedroom that open up into a big shared kitchen and living area. So there's no pressure to, put up a fake wall as a lot of people in New York do. That's not what we're doing here. These are often ground up, designed with roommates in mind.
And it costs less than a one bedroom or even a studio, or what?
It does. It's a co-living apartment is about 25% less than a studio apartment in the neighborhood. So that's several hundreds of dollars in savings. And in many cases, our members, the people who live at Common, they're not even going out and looking for a studio. They need more flexibility. They can't afford it. And they like living with others as well.
How about personality match? Do people go and guess? You don't get into matchmaking and compatibility, do you?
Yeah, so we're not in the matchmaking business. In some cases, people come with others. But one thing we allow is any member can transfer between any open room at any time within Common. And today we're in 6 cities. We have about 35 different buildings under management and over 1,200 rooms. So there's a lot of opportunity for people to mix and match.
So they can just call you and say, let me know your next opening. I want to try a different group.
Absolutely.
How often does that happen? What percent of the time?
We'll see a few percent of our members do that every month.
Right.
So it's not all the time everyone. That would be chaotic. But it is something that people do take advantage of. And some of that is, hey, I'd like to live with other people. And some of that is, hey, I'm moving to Seattle, I'm moving to DC. Do you have a room there? And that really makes life easier for people when they can do that move without breaking their lease.
So you have repeat customers in the apartment sharing business.
Absolutely. I mean, some of our best customers are people who have lived with us for years across multiple cities. And they love it because it's super flexible and they meet a lot of new people as well.
What gave you the idea to turn sharing an apartment into a business providing a higher value, nicer experience? Where did the light bulb go off on this?
Well, when I first moved to New York, I had to move on 2 weeks' notice, and I moved into a room that I found on Craigslist. And I got to meet some really interesting and fun people. But a lot of my friends didn't have that good of an experience. They had, in fact, a lot of really scary experiences. And it can be very daunting for someone moving to a place like New York for the first time to navigate renting an apartment, finding a room. You're interviewing with people you met on Craigslist to live in their apartment. So I looked at this, and my background is actually in education. Prior to this, I co-founded a school called General Assembly. We became the largest trade school in the U.S. with about 25,000 students a year. And we saw that not just our students, but many of our instructors, our employees, people further into their careers, when they would move to a city, they wouldn't look for an apartment, they would look for a room. And that really cued us into this idea that there's an opportunity here to create a better product.
Why, their use of the word, I'm coming to New York, I'll try to find a room.
A room.
That doesn't sound so great in retrospect, does it? A lot of us did that, but
A lot of us did
that. That doesn't sound so good anymore.
Well, it's partly, what are your expectations?
Yeah.
And a lot of that does relate to age and your stage of life.
Right.
We have, our median age is 29 of our members.
Right.
But there is a wide swath. We have, some people are coming straight out of college. We have some people who are a little later in their life. We have some divorcees who move into Common. They don't want to live alone, they don't own furniture, but they don't want to live with 22-year-olds they met on Craigslist either. So there's a lot of different demographics and groups that find their way and into an arrangement like Common.
So you hear people talking about coming to get a room. Do you then, take us through your thought process to when this became a business. Okay, so you're hearing this talk at General Assembly.
Yeah, so you hear a lot of people saying, hey, I just need a place to live. I want to find a room. Yeah, all the options out there are bad. There's nothing reliable. There's no brand I can look to that says, hey, I know what I'm going to get when I come here. And there's a brand standing behind this that says, hey, this is going to be a quality experience. So, that's in some ways what we did at General Assembly in technology education. So experimented on a really small scale. We found a small failed condo project in Brooklyn, worked with a partner to buy that. It was a vacant building and convert it into co-living. It was unique because it was all 4 and 5 bedroom condo units, and it turned out it was 19 beds in total, and that became our first home and still operating today in Brooklyn.
As one unit with 19 bedrooms?
It's multiple units.
Okay.
It's 4 units, 19 bedrooms in total, and it went from being on the market as $1.2 million condos each to bedrooms that are renting for $1,600 a month. That includes, all Wi-Fi, all utilities, weekly cleaning, shared supplies, and obviously access to all of our community events, all the gatherings, everything we're doing at Common to build a larger community here.
So you found a way to buy a $1.2 million condo and make a profit on it, renting it for $1,600 a month to a group of different people. When you just came through that math there, I said, you must have said, wow, are these numbers right?
Well, it's...
Because you're envisioning these beautiful suites.
Yeah, and it was a great building, and it was built really high quality. So the people who come and see it, they're like, wow, this is much nicer than anything I was getting on Craigslist. So it was a very different experience for the renter. Now today, most of what we do, almost all of what we do, is ground up.
Right.
We're finding land and working with real estate partners to build that. We don't do as much of the takeovers anymore, but that was a great kind of first example of here's how the model works.
What advice do you have to other business owners on how to sell and take an idea like you had in buying a condo building and turning it into shared living and envisioning these things? What advice do you have for others?
Well, the toughest thing about being an entrepreneur, in my view, is continuing to have that big vision, that place you're going, a sense of what the future looks like, but at the same time, being willing to back it up and say, how do I test this? How do I test this in a way where I can really validate the idea, where I can get other people excited about this idea, without doing what entrepreneurs call boiling the ocean, which is trying to do everything at once. So that's really, when you look at kind of this first project we did, 19 bedrooms, taking over a 4-unit condo building, that was that pilot. We went from having the idea to having our first building open in 8 months. And in real estate, In startup world, that's normal. In real estate, that's extremely fast. So getting that quick validation is extraordinarily important, because it's you don't want to burn a lot of time and a lot of money working on something that might not work.
By validating, you mean observing and seeing.
Getting real data.
So that it keeps you on task and gives you new ideas and doesn't distract you all over the place.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's very easy to go in a million directions at once. There are a lot of great ideas out there. But I really encourage entrepreneurs to say, how do you, without spending tens of thousands of dollars or 3 years of your life, is there a way you can validate this idea, get data behind it, get people excited about it, get followers on your journey? His life just gets so much easier and so much better, and you can actually start putting a product in front of customers.
You have a great website. People can take a look at it. And one of the slogans on there that I like is making city living more interesting, and talking to business owners like you makes city life more interesting for all of us.
Joe,
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Thanks.